Physical talent is important, but even more important is our attitude and mindset. Attitude is our perceptions on competition performance, and mindset is how we prepare our minds for that competition performance. So today's lesson will look at how these affect how well athletes perform in different situations. Examining performance in sport, attitude, there are two essential areas that are important, and that's competition, winning, and losing, especially in our youth sports. Young athletes, sometimes with competition, they may have a fear of failure, and it may weigh heavily. So what you want to do with especially young athletes is look at approaching competition and winning and losing, that there's lessons to be learned through those experiences, and then they give us potential for growth, give us a positive attitude. So each experience is going to help us grow, not only physically but personally. Mindset deals with our thoughts before competition. We look at mindsets, they're going to be different depending on our athletes. So the personality of the athletes can affect how we're going to approach competition, and then also different sports. Some sports need more levels of arousal versus some sports that are a little more calm. So we're going to have different mindsets for each of those. And when we look at mindset, we want to focus more on a growth mindset, which means that we can work and improve and get better, versus a fixed mindset that we have a certain inborn talent. Attitudes can be impacted, especially when athletes are young. So one thing we have to look at is you can't create passionate kids. They're going to have passion for certain sports and activities. One thing I enjoy about my father is he always involved us in many different activities, let us try a lot of different things. Different than the comic that you see on there where the son is complaining because the dad is trying to live vicariously through the son in soccer. So what the adult or parent coach can do is support the interests and passions of the athlete to help encourage that and help them flourish in those different sports or activities. Now, young athletes may also have some resistance to mental training. So one thing you want to emphasize in athletes, the young athletes, is that it's not just talent. You have to develop yourself in different ways, and mental training is one of those aspects. And really emphasize that growth comes through focused and effective practice. Again, it's not just based on talent. Talent is part of it, but we can also maximize those talents through different techniques. Another thing that can impact our performance is having a positive attitude toward pressure. All our athletes are trying to achieve peak performance. They're trying to get the best that they can do in those high-level situations. But you can have variable performance or different variety in the performance during pressure situations because emotions come into play. Emotions can impact the normal flow of thoughts and actions during competition, and it can also upset the performance routines during an intense or pressure situation. If you look at the pyramid over to the right, as far as performance, emotional stability is pretty high on the list. So what athletes can do to help with this is make sure you practice pressure situations. You can do that physically, or you can use those mental imagery techniques we talked about before to help us practice and get us ready for pressure situations. Another thing that's important is emotional conditioning. And this is one way we can reprogram our mind habits that challenge the habits associated with negative thinking. So we're creating and reprogramming these habits, so we're going to get rid of those negative thoughts and have more positive thinking and positive attitude towards pressure situations. Preparation before a competition involves mindsets. And there's going to be different mindsets depending on the personality of the athlete and also the sport that or activity they're participating in. First mindset we have is aggressive mindset. And this is especially important for an athlete that's not naturally aggressive. And what this helps the athlete do is be more proactive, making things happen, being assertive and forceful in different situations. This helps take the level of performance up to a higher elite level. And it's especially important in competitive sports or combative sports such as football. The next mindset we have is a calm mindset, and this is where your goal is to settle down and relax, getting rid of worry and doubt, calming down your nerves, releasing tension. This can be especially effective for athletes that are naturally aggressive and need to calm themselves down a little bit. One way we can get into the calm mindset is using the imagery we talked about before to visualize different things and help our body relax. A clear mindset is where we don't have anything going on related to the performing in our mind before a competition, so we kind of clear our minds. And these are for athletes that are naturally intuitive, meaning they don't have to think about their sport to perform well, free-spirited, they just kind of go with the flow, and experienced, they have a lot of confidence in their capabilities for success. So again, the approach to this is moving away from the sport. They may talk and hang out with athletes and coaches and just talk about things that avoid thinking about the sport before the competition. Another aspect of mindset is how the athlete approaches training, practice, and competition. And that's a growth versus fixed mindset. A fixed mindset, the athlete believes that they're born with a certain amount of talent. They can only go so far, so they're limited in where they're at, and everything depends on things outside of it, externally versus internally. A growth mindset, the athlete knows that they can work hard, develop, get better, and a lot of that responsibility is up to them. So a fixed mindset, they're usually motivated to prove oneself and receive praise. Versus a growth mindset, the motivation is to work hard, develop, and persist. So again, a growth mindset can help the athlete be more successful because they're going to understand if they keep working hard, they can get better. No matter what talent level they're at, they can maximize that talent. Summarizing today's lesson, attitude, how we're approaching things, and it could be positive and negative attitude, especially with competition and winning and losing. Mindset is how we prepare our minds before a competition performance. Pressure can cause variability in performance, so it's important that we practice pressure situations physically and with mental training. Emotional conditioning is changing our habits away from negative thinking to positive thinking. We have different mindsets depending on the personality of the athlete and the sport. So we have aggressive, calm, and clear mindsets. All athletes want to have a growth mindset, meaning that they feel you can work, whatever talent level you're at, you can work and get better, versus a fixed mindset that you're stuck where you are. So after this lesson, think about where are you as far as your attitude and mindset. Do you have a growth mindset where you feel that you can improve in those situations? Or do you have a lot of things that lead you toward being in a fixed mindset? And what are some things you do to maintain a positive attitude toward competition and winning and losing?